Hello and welcome to EdSpace, where we discuss some of the week's top news headlines with Mint's editor Sukumar Ranganathan. Welcome to the show, Sukumar. Standard & Poor has affirmed the BBB negative rating and said that, India's outlook is negative. The outlook for India, rather, is negative. What's your take on this?
See, they basically reaffirmed what they said last year. And they've given the same chances of a downgrade. The possibility of the downgrade remains the same that was in October, which I actually find a little surprising because I think structurally India has either done or expressed an intent to do the kind of things that you need to do, especially with relation to the fiscal deficit and other things. And things are beginning to look better. The general impression is that as far as the economy is concerned, we've bottomed out. So given that, I'm still a little unclear as to why the probability remains the same and the risk, if you look at the possibility of this happening, why it continues to still be as severe as it was some time back. So we'll have to wait and watch. It's obviously a blow for the government because I think in many ways, if you look at the constituencies the government was trying to reach out to, I think the credit rating agencies were a very, very important constituency. They were, of course, trying to reach out to fund managers, foreign institutional investors, companies, but they were also trying to impress upon credit rating agencies the fact that they were doing the right things.
The Vodafone case, the tax case, the newly appointed law minister has, sort of had a rethink, as it were, on the conciliation aspect of it. Do you think for the first time that you have the law minister, the finance minister and the PM on the same page? What kind of a signal does it send out to foreign investors and credit rating agencies as far as investment climate in India goes?
See, foreign investors right now have every reason to be upset about India, right? Because it wasn't just Vodafone. There's also the tax case against Shell.
Yeah.
And both those claims are, let's put it mildly, they're debatable.
Okay.
Right? And in fact, let's not forget that in Vodafone case, the Supreme Court had ruled in favor of the company before the government went and put in place a retrospective law. The fact is you have a law.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you repeal that law without saving face, especially because that law has been passed, because it was in last year's budget, the bill got passed. What do you do? And there needs to be some attempt to settle with the company. Now the question is the company willing to settle? Right? Because it did achieve a victory of sorts.
With the court.
Not of sorts. It did achieve a victory in the court.
Yeah.
And only to have this law suddenly come into place. I think it's a positive signal in so much as the government shows that it's ready to sit down and talk and arrive at some sort of compromise, some sort of settlement with the company. But beyond that, I think investors are going to want reassurance that the tax regime will be stable, that they will not be highly controversial and highly arguable or debatable or questionable tax claims. And that I'm not so sure they're getting so far. Because the Shell case is again very controversial. So you'll have to see what happens. So it's a half step, not the full measure, but maybe the full measure will come.
Sukumar, last question on the IPL match fixing. Now, India seems to be hitting the headlines for all the wrong reasons. I mean, safety of women, corruption, now this match fixing. Now, match fixing we knew it existed. But again, seems to be a case of what happened to the IPL seems to be a case of how it's blown up again in India's face. How do you look at it?
And the worst thing is it's getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
Because today, even as we speak, in Chennai, there have been arrests of more bookies, there have been some amounts seized. Several newspapers have been writing about the existence of bookies and betting related to the IPL for quite some time. And then, of course, you have these arrests that happened yesterday of 3 players from the Rajasthan Royals. The fact is, in India, cricket is very popular. IPL is very popular. IPL also It's a league which has its own share of problems, lots of controversies. Its founding commissioner is in self-imposed exile in London. He says he fears his life. The enforcement directorate has lots of questions that it wants answered from him. He says he's answered them. The president of the Indian board owns a team, which is a direct conflict of interest. Many of the teams are owned by companies which neither have set great standards in corporate governance. Their standards of corporate governance are pretty bad, and many of them are hugely in debt. For instance, one of them is owned by Mr. Malia, who grounded his airline, and I don't know whether he's still paid his employees. I think his cricketers are getting paid. So it's a very strange kind of combination that has come together in IPL, and you are bound to have people who are trying to make money off it through betting also. The solution, some people suggest maybe to just legalize betting in India. Like, in the UK, for instance, sports betting is legal, and if you have that, it could probably put an end to that. To my mind, betting is not the insidious part of it, right? It may be illegal, but it's not insidious. The insidious part of it is what the players are doing. And there, I think IPL lends itself more than international cricket does at this point in time. For the simple reason that international cricketers are much better paid. The scrutiny on them is stronger, and they have much more to lose. Whereas in IPL, you have fringe players. You do have big players, you do have international players, but you also have fringe players. And I think all three players of Rajasthan Royals who were arrested were fringe players. Like one of them might have played international cricket, but he's now a fringe player. I don't think he's ever going to play for the country again. So I think for these people, the motivation is probably there to sort of encash.
Quick buck.
Encash whatever they can, right? They have some information, they're asked to do something, and they can make a quick buck, like you said. And international cricketers, I would expect, would probably be much more resistant to something like this, unless, of course, you're a 17-year-old fast bowler from Pakistan, and then you'll probably find it very difficult if your captain asks you to do something.
Thank you very much, Sukumar. That's all we have for you this week. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for more.